Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Liferay live event. My name is Parneet, and I'm part of the marketing team here at Liferay. I will be your host today. In the second webinar of the Simplifying Digital Asset Management from our Demystifying Machine Learning series, we'll cover the role of digital asset management in digital transformation projects, automating tagging and search for your digital assets, use of machine learning in digital asset management, blending machine learning and human-led workflows to ensure DAM quality. Today's webinar will be presented by Chris Patefee. He is the senior sales engineer based out of London. Chris has been involved in digital transformation projects for almost 2 decades, and he has a keen interest in blending the latest in machine learning services with JavaScript UI and Liferay Java services. So before we dive into the session, I would like to introduce Liferay to those of you who are new to us. Liferay is a 10-time leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for Digital Experience Platform. We make software that helps companies create digital experiences on web, mobile, and connected devices. Our platform is open source, which makes it more reliable, innovative, and secure. We try to leave a positive mark on the world through business and technology. Thousands of organizations in financial services, healthcare, government, insurance, retail, manufacturing, and multiple other industries use Liferay. Liferay's customers include O2, Domino's, Airbus, Allianz, and many more. So just to let everyone know, all the attendees today will be in listen mode only. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them in the chat box on the right-hand side, and we'll have a short Q&A session at the end. Over to you, Chris.
Thank you very much. So my name is Chris Patefield. I'm Senior Sales Engineer for Liferay UK. Welcome, everybody. So I want to start by doing my usual thing. So my usual thing is I like to start with a statement. And my statement today is that delivering just-in-time content and personalized experiences is becoming an absolutely impossible task. And generally, this is down to one thing. It's the number of channels that we are having to surface as a marketing department or as a comms team. And those numbers of channels are just increasing exponentially. And what's happening is every time those channels increase, then the cost in servicing those channels just increases. And you get to around a fresh point of about 8 different channels. And when I mean channels, I'm talking about different device real estate, different methods of interacting with your customer. So potentially via mobile app, via different devices, by different screen ratios, etc. And it only increases over time. So you get to about 8 different channels, and then the cost just spirals from there, and it never ends. So in the past, using a DAM or doing digital asset management was relatively simple. You essentially had an interface where you could save a particular piece of media. You might create 2 or 3 different versions of it. You might expose that via a REST service and then consume that on a number of different devices. So that was relatively simple. And that was kind of the state of play up until, I would say, the last 2 to 3 years. And then, I also want to explain what Liferay do. So Liferay is a digital experience platform. And today we're talking about digital asset management. Well, digital asset management is just one of the things that Liferay does. We also do commerce. We do document management. We are a fully featured CMS. We have the ability to use Liferay as a development platform. And essentially, in the words of Forrester, the proliferation of customer touchpoints, applications, and digital interactions demands a new style of technology. And that's what Liferay do. So remember today that digital asset management is just one of the things that Liferay does, but it will be relevant because we'll show you other functionality that Liferay possesses, which can enhance your digital asset management system. So talking about those costs, why do they become unmanageable? Well, the march of the electronic device just won't stop. So you've now got wearables. Okay, so I've got my Fitbit watch on at the moment, right? And that has the potential to deliver assets. You've got ambient devices. These are crazy things. These are the things that exist in your kitchen. They kind of have screens on them and they have the voice UI, right? So they're like the Echo style systems, but with a screen. You've got Echoes themselves, you've got Google Dot, you've got assets that are displayed in your car, or there may be written assets which are read out by your car. You've got tablets, phablets, foldables, okay? You've got all those different channels, but on different speeds of connection. So you've got 5G. I own 5G at home. Is it any faster than 4G? I can't actually tell you yet. It barely ever connects, but that's not the point. Okay, you've got 4G, 3G, fiber. Yeah, you've got the different aspect ratios, okay, that are available on this device, the different way that voice and text is presented on these devices. You've got all the different operating systems. We haven't even got into that, okay? We've got, native mobile applications, and we've got a number of different protocols which are used for sharing all that information. And then you've got best practice, right? So we all want to be, as the picture denotes, we all want to be that British phrase, smarty pants, right? We want to be the smartest kid in the room. So we've got brand envy, right? We all want to be like Amazon. We want to be like Facebook. We want to, have the best user interfaces, and that's an issue. And then we have the A/B multivariate testing as well, right? So we've got this crazy, amazing interface, and we want to actually display assets in 4 different ways to see which one gets clicked the most, or leads to people bouncing the least. And then we've got the constant need to grow and the general need to have constant pressure to produce. So you combine those two things together, and then you've got a problem, because all that essentially leads to complexity. So in order to manage the complexity, we need to be able to tag our assets so we can search for them. We need to have a good structured categorization system. I noticed that we've got a member who's actually joined this conference today from one of Liferay's partners. And they're very big into using folksonomy and taxonomy to mask those assets. If you want to know who that is, you can message me afterwards. We've got adaptive media, right? The ability to have all different sizes and shapes of images and video for the different channels and the different speeds of connection. We've got the need to be able to translate all this stuff, and an effective way of doing that. And that's very, very difficult in multi-language markets, and especially with marketplace style content. And then we've got versioning, okay? And then versioning is cool, but then you've got channel versioning. And then channel versioning leads to branches of versioning. And then you've got the need to moderate all these crazy different complex and time consuming variants. You need to moderate it. How are you going to do that? So you can't execute, because execution is impossible, and you're only as good as what is possible for you to create. But you know what? I'm Chris, and I'm not for giving up. So we're going to try and solve the problem. So Liferay, we love an iceberg. Okay. So the analogy we're going to use for this iceberg is that we reckon maybe we can solve a lot of the problem by using machine learning and using the extendability features of Liferay. But that's only the top part of the iceberg. The rest of the iceberg is a huge, massive fin underneath, which actually provides the structure of the iceberg and is actually what sinks more ships. So in order to get where you need to go, you need to start with a good asset management system. So what is a good asset management system? Well, I can go by what Liferay do, okay? So you need a powerful, faceted search. And what I mean by that is that you need to be able to search, but then have ways of filtering those searches across maybe document type, by the user that created it, etc., by categorization and tags. And you need workflow. Workflow is massively important to be able to allow you to grow and add value to your asset management system. I'm not going to go too much into this because we talk about it later. You need to have multi-site, multi-repository, folder structures, the ability to be able to integrate into other asset management systems and manage assets in more than one place. You need different asset types, images, video, but more than that, a multitude of different file types need to be supported as well, ranging from a JPEG all the way through to a PSD, TIFF, etc. Right? Millions of different file types could potentially be used. You need a content framework potentially, okay? Because a digital asset management system is good, but if you've got a content framework that essentially allows you to merge those assets into a piece of deliverable content, then that gives your asset management system more functionality. You need an asset framework potentially and collaboration capability. That's what you get with Liferay. So you've got the ability to be able to tag something as an asset and then to be able to comment on it, vote on it, upvote, downvote, which all affects the search and allows you to collaborate effectively between different departments and different users. You need the ability to rate things, as I said, folksonomy, categorization. You need free-form metadata fields, right? So when someone uploads a document, maybe you want an expiry date for that document, okay? And so that's what you would call a free-form metadata field. You need the ability to be able to extract metadata from the asset itself. You wouldn't believe it, when you take a picture with a camera, there is so much metadata that's saved at that point in time. Modified date, created date, even potentially the geolocation of the photograph. You need to be able to, if you're going to have a content framework, to be able to template effectively and have different templates for different channels. You need a strong versioning system, maybe a channel versioning system. You need a headless REST API so you can call all this stuff and integrate it in the various different applications that exist in your business. You maybe go a step further. You may play to the young JavaScript kids, right? They want to use GraphQL. They want a query-based API. And that's something that maybe a good DXP or asset management system is going to give you. That's your base, right? That's where you start. But most of all, it needs to be built from the ground up to be extended, okay? Because it's only through extension that you can open up the little box of machine learning delights. So good damn features are not enough to do the job. You need a machine learning strategy crafted, and this is really important, to you, okay? Not to what a DXP company tells you is the best way to use machine learning, because that won't work for your potential use case. And you need to use best of breed services that are available from people like Amazon, Google, maybe IBM Watson, okay? And actually a particular favorite, Microsoft Cognitive Services. So we've got an example for you, okay? It's not a teddy bear. It's a depiction of a shop, okay? That's an online shop. They're called Terry's Toys. Terry's Toys, this completely made up shop, they have a multi-billion-pound turnover. They want to compete with Amazon, okay? But they've got a number of different problems. So what problems do Terry's Toys have? Well, number one is channels. So they have many different devices that they have to support with different screen ratios and channels delivered in multiple languages because they sell all over the world in multiple markets. And they have their own commerce problem as well, that essentially they have sellers, a little bit like Amazon have sellers, that sell through their marketplace platform. So they're delivering content, and that's then branded as Terry's Toys. So that's a dangerous concept and something that we need to deal with. And then they've got the best practice problem, right? They want to be a smarty pants, just like the image depicts. And they need to compete with Amazon as well as a number of specialist toy vendors out there in the market. So they've got all the complexity that we talked about earlier, tagging, design manuals, translation, versioning. But they've also got huge moderation problems and issues around trademarks and compliance. So their problems are all your problems times 3,000, okay? Because they have 3,000 marketplace partners. So Terry's Toys, potentially, if they were using Liferay DXP or a like-minded system, could use extension points, workflow, and machine learning together. And I'm going to allude to this a little bit later on by telling you what they get when they meld those three things together. So this is what their workflow looks like, all right? It looks like a big spider's web, right? I'm not expecting you to understand what's going on here, but this is an example of using Calio workflow to do exactly what they want to do. So let's break it down. So Terry's problem, number one, we can't find the assets we know we created last year. Now, I've got Penny sitting next to me, and I know her desktop, right? So I know the millions of files that marketers create on an ongoing basis. So what we're going to do is we're going to use tagging for improved search. So we'll talk through the flow. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use Liferay DXP to understand whether an asset can be tagged. Right, so how do we do that? So we look at the file, and we look at the extension, and then we know what files can be tagged. All right, so then we send the workflow off, and we go, right, call the, I don't know, whichever you want to use, call the Google API, okay, in order to recognize the content within those images. So we say, yes, okay, we're going to auto tag. And then what we do is then we check the tag quality score, all right? Because that's the way this happens. With machine learning, it's going to come back and go, do you know what? I'm 95% sure that's a teddy bear, okay? And if that's the case, then what we can do is we can say, right, anything below, I don't know, say 60%, okay, I'm going to send off for human review. So we go through the human review process, and at the same time, if the human agrees, we then send another service call to Google and say, do you know what, Google, you were right. Okay. That then becomes a learning circle. Okay. So this is going to improve search. It's going to allow us to display the assets based on tags, not just categories. It's going to allow us to have additional tags to be entered by humans, because that's something that you can do with a good digital experience platform. It's going to allow you for later folder and categorization consolidation. So you can look at all those different tags and go, do you know what? That tag keeps appearing constantly. So maybe that becomes a category, right? And you don't need machine learning to do that. You can use your APIs that exist within the DXP system to do that. So we're starting to meld workflow, the ability to create your own independent services in your DXP platform, and machine learning together. And this will automate a process that is often neglected. Okay, so I build demos all the time, and I get people in the office to create, add content. And the thing I say to them all the time: tag it, tag it, tag it. Don't forget to tag it. They always forget to tag it. All right, so this is something that you can automate. And by the way, this tagging capability exists within Liferay and exists within other platforms. But I'm taking it to the next level by using workflow and human intervention. Terry's problem number 2. So celebrities and influencers, their placement is important to Terry's, but it leads to constant change requests and time spent in moderation. So what we want to do is we want to potentially use a feature of machine learning, which is called celebrity recognition, or just actually recognition of human faces. So what we can do is we can make sure that the celebrity matches the product endorsement to reduce the risk of copyright for celebrities and influencers. So let's look at the process, okay? So first thing we do, okay, is we look at the asset and we go, should we check for celebrities? So again, we're looking at videos, potentially. We're looking at images of all different shapes and sizes, okay? We might even be looking within textual assets as well. And then what we're going to do is we can say, okay, we're going to check the celebrity. And then we're going to say, okay, yeah, we found the celebrity, okay? And then we're going to say, right, let's also get all the other assets that are related to the asset that you first entered. And then we'll start doing some quite clever things. So imagine that you've got, Terry's Toys. You're selling a miniature Barbie doll that looks like Britney Spears, okay? So you're going to first check that it actually looks like Britney Spears. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go through all the related assets and make sure that Tom Cruise doesn't appear in those assets where he shouldn't do, because you've only got the contract with Britney Spears. And then what you're going to do potentially is you're going to have an internal service, maybe like an account system or something where you store the contracts with the celebrity, with the expiry date and the start date and all the other information about the contract. You then use Liferay's integration capabilities to create a service that will pull that information in to the workflow and allow you to check that service against the celebrities which are included within the assets. And then for edge cases where you're thinking this doll really doesn't look like Britney Spears, okay, you're going to send that off for human review. And again, you're going to essentially make the machine learning more accurate through constant learning. And that's the whole point of machine learning to a certain extent. And this has high potential to reduce risk, especially when you're working with marketplaces, and minimize risk. So Terry's problem number 3. We can't ensure that our marketplace partners are as strict at monitoring for trademark violations as we are. So we don't have time to moderate. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a similar thing like we did with celebrities, but this time we're going to be looking for trademark violations. And it's really important when you come down to a product information management system, which are often used in conjunction with commerce systems. So Liferay includes commerce as one of our features, but we're also a really good product information management system. Why? Because we have all the asset management capabilities that normal product information management systems just can't compete with. We have a greater tool set. So what we can do is we can use recognition API functionality to check for trademark violations. And we can do this on videos, on images, but also on text. And again, we can get all the related assets together and we can make sure that we're not mixing Mercedes with Porsche. And then again, guess what? Always the same, human review. And we review this and we get better and we get better and we get better. And then Terry's problem number 4. So they've extended the number of channels and markets and multivariate testing campaigns, and they just can't effectively serve the business. So what we want to do is we want to automate as much of this process as we can humanly do, or machine learning do. So we need to keep evolving. We need to go to the next level. All right, we're doing trademarks, we're doing celebrities, we're doing tagging. Let's up our game. So what we're going to do is we're going to check potentially for brand guideline. So there are a number of different services that we can use to make sure that the faces within the images, okay, they're happy, they're joyous, okay, they're not looking really worried, because kids, when they're buying toys, want to look at happy, joyful people. We can make sure that the image has the correct quality. We can make sure that the image has not been essentially taken from a place where it shouldn't have been taken, right? So you've got all that capability at our disposal. We can also check whether the content, especially if it's written, or even inside the images itself, contains profanity or extreme content. And then when we've done that, we can start creating relationships between assets and products that we didn't even know existed. So Liferay Commerce has this functionality is beginning to be built into the technology. So we can do this at a product information management level, but we can also do it at an asset level. So we create these relationships and then we use it to suggest product groupings or suggest content to our users as they use the platform. And then another personal favorite, and a shout out to my good friend Jan over in Holland. What he's done is he's created an extension module which is available over GitHub, where you can essentially translate all your content using Amazon's translation engine, which again is using machine learning to a certain extent. But where it works really, really well is to take some content, to translate it into all your known languages, but then allow a proper human translator to then work on that content and get a head start, okay? Maybe they agree with the translation. Maybe they make it a little bit better. Maybe they put it more context around it. But I tell you what, they save time. And then finally, what we can do is we can do next generation adaptive media. Now, Liferay includes adaptive media out of the box, but what we can do is take it to the next level, whereby we don't just crop and resize. We actually look at the context of the image and then crop and resize, meaning that the function of the image, the story of the image is preserved. And I think you can agree, if we go through all these different processes, we can take digital asset management to a completely new level. So no DXP or DAM can have an ML story, because an ML story is your story. It's not my story. It's not Liferay's story. It's a story that you need to build. And we can give you the tools to do it. We can advise on best practice. But ultimately, the story is yours. So you need to utilize a DAM or DXP, hopefully us, with solid foundations, an extension capability, with amazing workflow to get the best from commodity, best of breed machine learning services. Above all else, you need to understand the problems in your asset management strategy, okay? And then go mad, right? Use innovation to automate out the cost. And we'll open it up to questions.
So, Chris, I can see we have a few questions here. I'm going to read them out to you. The first question we have is, let's see what we have here. What marketing platforms can DXPs integrate with?
What marketing platforms can DXPs integrate? So, well, in Liferay itself, we integrate every day with HubSpot. We have many customers that integrate with Pado, for instance, or Pardot, depending on how you pronounce it. So there's a whole host of different marketing systems. Now, Liferay as a platform, and most DXP platforms actually, are really good at doing client-side integrations using JavaScript. Where Liferay excels as a platform is its back-end extension capabilities, okay? And through back-end and a mixture of front-end, you can really unlock the capabilities of your existing marketing collateral. And your existing marketing systems, we always say in Liferay, or I do anyway in the UK, I don't want you to change the systems that you're using if they're good. If you like them, continue to use them. We will integrate to you.
Okay. The next question we have is, as a marketer, when do I choose a DAM over a DXP and vice versa?
Really good question. Really very good question. I think if you're looking for a cohesive, organized structure, and you tend to use a CMS as opposed to a site that you've essentially built yourself, maybe as a single page application, or where you're potentially using a structured CMS, but also mobile channels, okay, then I think it's really good to use a DXP in that case, yeah? If you have essentially, you know, very customized front ends, which are just using JavaScript frameworks, and you've got a native app, again, that you've built yourself from scratch, then potentially you just need a DAM.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's a properly interesting question. Obviously, I'm going to say a DXP because I'm biased. It's a very interesting question.
Okay, So what about reporting? There's a question we have here which says, DAMs have reporting features. Do DXPs also have reporting features that can give you loaded and
A really good question. That's correct. Analytics Cloud. And where that excels is that it understands the difference between pages and assets. So you can actually include a number of different assets on a page, and then you can report and segment your users based on how the asset performs as opposed to how the page performs. Okay. A really simple example is documents. So you have asset level analytics that are going to tell you how many times an asset has been downloaded, viewed, displayed, and the amount of time they've been previewing that document as well. And we do that across all our different assets. And you can't really do that with a DAM. Well, you can, but you're going to get with our analytics much greater capability. Like that, all I've said about assets, but mixed with pages, and then including segmentation capability on top, it becomes a really interesting and powerful capability for marketing departments.
Yeah, I think this is what we're going to be discussing in our next webinar as well. So I think, guys, any of you who are interested should join us for our next webinar from this series.
Thanks a lot. I've just spoiled the next webinar.
No, not at all. I guess this is it from us today. Thank you all for joining us and hope you found this session valuable. This webinar has been recorded, so we will make the recording available through our website and we will also email it to you. If you haven't checked out the other webinars from the series, we will just share the link with you in the chat window, so you shall have it. We look forward to hosting you again next week at the same time. Have a good rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Puneet.